Good morning and welcome to VoV, where good things are always happening. I'm Mina, and this is VoV Network. We're going to be talking about togetherness today, and it tis the season. So I'm here with my co founder, Brian. Say hi, Brian.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
So we're going to get into the togetherness topic. And Brian, let's go.
Let's get into it, right? Well, welcome back, everyone. Amina, thanks for that introduction this morning. As Mina said, we're coming up on the holidays, and it's always an interesting time of year for many different reasons. And it matters. Just reconnecting with family and friends, and other things that go on, and along with some of the stresses that tend to come with the holiday season. So that's what we want to talk about that today from the standpoint, especially of how that impacts your different relationships and maybe some of the better ways just to manage your way through it and make this a productive season for you so that when we get to 2022, which we all hope is going to be a lot different from 2020 and 2021 from
Right,
a pandemic and many other reasons. Set that stage and kind of put us on a floor or a foundation to really move forward in a positive light, just in life in general, but also in the relationships that we have in our life.
right.
So, Mina, how about you pick up from there and kind of share a little bit more about what we're going to get into today?
Well, we were thinking about, there's so many issues that have come up in the last, year and a half, 2 years with the pandemic. And not just the pandemic, we haven't really spent a lot of times with friends and family because we have been disconnected. And there may be
Mhm.
issues that have come up with it too. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So some of the issues with reconnecting, some of the tips for that. But so we were thinking that would be a good subject to talk about reconnecting, and we're always talking about togetherness and connection. So this was a good topic for us. This is how we got to this.
Yep. I could not agree more. And w- being connected with family and friends really matters. It's funny. I had an opportunity last night to spend some time with some local friends of mine here that are very dear to me, and just because of life and busy and work and the pandemic and many other things, I hadn't had an opportunity to spend some time with them in a couple of months. So it's been a while, and there's just something about that time, even though
Yeah,
it's a few hours, that kind of thing, but it really makes a difference in just how you feel. Kind of a moment of reconnecting and rejuvenation and kind of rebuilding some of those bridges. So it really made a difference from that standpoint. And that's kind of what we want to get into today, is just having some of those discussions about, um, especially with this time of year. You got Thanksgiving, which I still can't believe is next week already, which blows my mind. And
yeah,
then obviously going on into the Christmas and New Year season. But really taking some time to do some things as you go through that with intent and with some purpose to
hmm,
reconnect, to rebuild, and to rejuvenate many different things in your life. And that's what we wanted to talk about. So, I mean, I
yeah,
know you had kind of wanted to look at this. Because we have kind of some different perspective on it, but I
right.
think both perspectives matter. So
Mhm.
kind of give a little bit of background on, kind of some of the things you see that are important as we go through this.
Yeah, I saw a post and it was about the glue. You sometimes, the holidays are coming, we're trying to reconnect and be with our family, um and it was something about what about the glue has the person that matriarch or patriarch has passed on, or the
Hmm.
glue, the person that keeps the family together. So how do you do that?
Hmm.
What's it going to be like trying to have these celebrations when but that's only one situation that could keep your family disconnected. There's also discourse or having an argument or a fight or not talking to each other for years or whatever. Those kind of things happen too. So we really want to take make the most out of these holidays after what we've been through. And I just reconnected with some friends when I was in Mexico, and it's like you pick up where you where you left off, like you never
Yeah,
were separated, even though
yeah.
there may have been some things that have happened along the time. Like you just kind of move on and connect because you love these people, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I thought that it might be a good idea to talk about this. And
Yeah.
so um
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up about, like you said, having that opportunity to just reconnect with some folks, and
right.
even though there may be a gap or a period of time in between, it's just it's almost like, oh, automatic that you just kind
Yeah,
of rebuild those bridges and you start down that road. I
yeah,
want to go back though to what you were talking about, the matriarch or the patriarch of the family. And for
yeah.
some of us, that's grandma and grandpa, those kinds of things, or someone, it could be mom and dad, that have, always made something special happen within the family that
Mhm,
time of year. And if that's now lost or missing,
mhm.
how that impacts you from a psychological and emotional standpoint, because you are obviously just kind of feeling disconnected,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit lost,
yeah,
right? Because things are out of line. There's a certain alignment that I think
yeah.
happens and comes when what's going
Yes.
to be happening. So now
Mhm.
you're going into this, and you're like, well, wow, well, what do we do?
What are we
So
gonna do? What's gonna
yeah,
happen? Yeah,
who is coordinating Thanksgiving dinner? Who knows
yeah,
who's going to bring
yeah,
what? Where are we going to
yeah.
be? Where are we going to go? Because there was always this routine and pattern
Mhm.
and predictability that was there. Um, so that's really what we wanted to kind of to just talk about and shed some light on how you that may bring about some stress and some discomfort with you in in your world, and as you kind of go through the next month and a half of
Mhm.
the holiday season, and how that's important to try to find out how to keep yourself planted and balanced as you
Yes.
work your way through it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know fortunately for our family, we lost both of our parents. So, um, but when my mother died, it was like that was the glue. She was the glue.
Hmm.
And it was kind of funny because not funny, but interesting because you would think that one of the daughters would be the ones that would step up and
Step
be the
up
one
and
move, but it wasn't. It was my brother.
right.
He actually stepped up, and I mean, he was like now the patriarch. He was doing everything, trying to keep everything together, and it really wore on him, but he really was. And he's still that's still kind of his thing. He's
Hmm.
still that person, but you know and I'm glad it's him because my life is crazy. But yeah, that somebody has to step up. Somebody has to, be the lead on it. Or you got to have some meetings or something, or some Zoom calls, and everybody get together and talk about who's going to do what, or
Hmm.
something, because that's you got to get this consensus so you can move on together.
Together, right? And
Together.
that's the thing, the unified front, and as you said, it is surprising sometimes who you think may be the person that
Yeah.
steps up and takes that role, and then sometimes how
Yeah.
that moves to someone that you didn't. Um,
Never expected.
the most important piece of it is just realizing that it matters, that it is important, that those traditions, as best you can,
Yeah.
you pick them up, you put the pieces back together, and you try to move forward.
Mhm.
Um, and the other reason that we really felt that this was an important topic to bring up, not just any routine Christmas or it's holiday season, um, but the fact that this whole pandemic thing,
Yeah.
and people have really been disjointed and disconnected on top of whatever else might have happened just in their
Right.
family circles and in their circle of friends and those kinds of things. So, how do you start to truly rebuild those
Right.
connections, get those bridges back into place? Because those are really the important pieces of life.
Mhm.
Staying connected to your family, staying connected to your friends,
Right.
um, spending that true quality, that meaningful quality time with those
Mhm.
people,
Right.
is what makes it all worthwhile. That hustle
Right.
that you're out there, you're working the long hours, you're doing this, you're
Yeah.
doing that, right? um, that's that time when you have an opportunity to have some kind of
Mhm.
sense of appreciation for it all,
Yeah.
right? When you're with those people.
Where you can sit down and recharge,
Hmm.
refocus,
Hmm.
rejuvenate, like you said,
Rejuvenate.
rebuild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have some tips, some information on
Okay.
reconnecting. So, first of all, I'm coming at it kind of if there was discourse or a problem, but it's still the same thing if someone has passed on, just kind of recognizing, what was the case for it? What happened? What caused it? Was it an estrangement, or was it, someone passed on, that there was that disconnection, and what happened, with it.
Hmm.
Um, and then knowing, sometimes we get something happens, like say discourse, and we get so upset with the situation that we might label it as a toxic relationship. Got to be done. It's toxic or whatever. But sometimes it's not necessarily toxic. And knowing the difference between toxic and whether it was just a situational incident,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
person, you may still love that person, but that one thing might have just set you off in a,
Hmm.
maybe in anger, or maybe hurt your feelings so bad, and you are disconnected because of it. And if it's a family member, it's important because you don't pick your family, but your family is always there, right? So in order
Hmm.
to keep that connection, just try to think of the situation. Is it really toxic? Sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not. Agreed. Hmm.
Um, I have to jump down. Hold on a second. My back is killing me. I'm sorry. Pull my muscle before we started. Sorry. Oh, I was gonna sit still. Hold on. Okay. Shoot. Okay. The next one. So if you're the person, make sure I'm not messing this up. Ooh. Hold on. Okay, so if you're the person that wanted to heal, so you're
Hmm.
trying to reconnect, you gotta initiate contact,
Hmm. Hmm.
or you gotta
Hmm.
get an intermediary to contact for you.
Hmm.
So somehow you gotta make that contact. You wanna heal, you wanna reconnect, you gotta make that contact. So remember that in the back of your mind. You can't stay, you're at the point where you wanna have that connection with that person or your family. You can't stay in, no, they did this or that, and I'm gonna be mad about this, or I can't make that step. I'm gonna be stubborn.
Hmm.
Somebody gotta make the first contact, and you want to reconnect. It's gonna have to be you or somebody to do it for you. Um, the next step, understand the importance of healing.
Hmm.
Yeah, you need to know that it's important. Holding on to it affects your body. We talked about that in our last
Hmm.
video. It affects you.
Hmm.
Holding on to that stuff. It's discord. It's like when they say, what is it? Being angry at someone who's gone on with their life and they're just fine. It's like, what did they say? It's like, Brian? Um, poison.
Poison. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you're having the poison and they gone on with their life. You're
Hmm.
poisoning yourself.
Hmm.
So understand the importance of healing. The person, and also that in healing, the person who was slighted, they need to vent. So you may both think you were slighted in
Hmm.
some way, and you may not realize that they felt a certain way too.
Right.
So you both may need to vent, but it may be just you, and maybe that person doesn't even know why you're having this issue, or your family doesn't even know why you don't come around, why you won't
Hmm.
be bothered. Like you gotta vent, you gotta do it,
Hmm.
and it's not always easy because you don't want to hurt people's feelings, right? You gotta have that courage to do it, and it's really not easy. I mean, I can say I've done it myself, and it's not easy. But you got to get that courage to push that out because sometimes people can be so caught up in themselves, not necessarily selfish, but in what they're facing, that they don't realize that you're facing something too. And
Hmm.
you might need to go ahead and you will need to vent that. And people, make sure you honor their boundaries. Brian, I'm just going. I haven't given you a chance to say anything.
No, go for it. Go good. It's all
So
good.
people set up boundaries. And so I'm just going to say for me, give you an example. My daughter has boundaries, right? But I'm her mom. You ain't got no boundaries when it comes to your mama, right? But you do. And as she's gotten older, I can see her flexing her boundary muscle. And I have to respect those boundaries, right? But sometimes I'll be wanting to be all up in there, right? Not too
Yep.
much, but sometimes I
Yeah.
do. What you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and and when when we have problems or issues, she sets up those boundaries, right? And I have to, respect them because that's how people protect themselves. They put those
Mhm.
boundaries up. You don't go crossing them. You let
Mhm.
them keep their boundary, and when they're ready, they'll come back. It's
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
easy. That's really not easy.
It's really not easy. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to call them up and be like, "What the heck?
Yep.
Tell me what's going on." And they're like, "When I want to talk to you, I'll talk to you."
Right. Exactly.
So you got to they protect themselves. So you got to respect and honor those boundaries.
Yep.
And the last thing, know the power in saying, "I'm sorry."
Mm.
They
That's a
appreciate
big
that.
one.
People
That's a big one.
appreciate you saying you're sorry. And then I'm sorry needs to be heartfelt.
Mhm.
And I experienced something myself, like saying I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry. I might tell you, Brian, I'm sorry, right? And I mean it, but I'm not really as sorry as I need to be. So I might need some time to think about it. So give people time. They might need time to think about the situation to really understand like what they did.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah, well, not only with I mean, it's just part their actions, but there's also consequences, and
yes,
sometimes those consequences take some time to work
yeah,
their way through the pipe, right? And
yeah.
so once they get to that point of what the consequences are all about,
Mhm.
then it's more of, "Ooh, okay, I am sorry that that happened or
I
that that
did
went
really
down in
do
that way."
that, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, you know what? I wanna tell you I'm sorry again because I really did. I didn't mean to hurt you. It was not intentional. I was probably thinking about myself too much." You just need to go back and do that. "Hey, Toby, I'm glad you're watching." So, you might have to do that.
Mhm.
And so that was my points to the how to connect.
Yeah. So I want to go back to a couple. One was you were talking about your daughter, right? And
Mhm.
how at a certain point she starts to flex that muscle of
Oh,
boundaries and
goodness.
different things. You're like, no, no, I'm mama, right?
Girl, who you talking to?
However, what's interesting, and this all really kind of is woven into the whole point of this subject today when we talk about togetherness and rebuilding those bonds and those relationships and getting refocused as a family or friend group or whatever it might be. Um, y- Technically, her doing what she's doing is obvious is actually your fault. But let me
Yeah,
qualify because you raised them to be strong and to
I
be independent,
know.
right?
We
Yeah,
didn't
right?
do that. We didn't do that with our parents. All they had to do was look at us, and it's like, "We
Right.
grown." "Oh,
Times have changed, right?
I'm
But
sorry. I'm sorry."
yeah, exactly. They have to even say a
Yeah,
word. But times have changed, but, at the end of the day, it's really us as parents. We have purposely said we need them to be a little
yeah,
more fearless and know
right,
who they are and be independent, be
yeah.
strong. But
Mhm.
when that comes back at us, we're like, "Oh, wait a
"What the
minute."
hell? Who you talking to?"
Right? And then you're like, "Oh, well, it's kinda my fault. I raised them to
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
voice. I said she should have a voice, and not as she
yeah.
does.
She
It
using
becomes
it,
a
and I'm
challenge."
like,
Right,
"What?
right.
Uh-uh."
Exactly.
But then I'm proud of her too at the same time when she does.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah,
So tying that back to our subject for today, if there's a family member, if you have a friend who over this past couple years, months, whatever it might be, and maybe there's a little discourse between you
yeah,
as you have some discord there and et cetera, that's not positive or not where it should be.
yeah,
Maybe now is that time to take a step back and say,
yeah,
you know what, let's try to forgive, let's try to forget. Um, and you also mentioned, and I just want to bring back on top of that closure, because that's another
yeah,
piece of it, right?
Mm,
actually having a moment and some time to say, because if it's like an open wound, right? If you
right.
got that and you're dealing with it and you
Stays.
can't put it down, you can't let it go because you don't have that closure piece to
Right.
it, it just eats at you and it eats at you and it eats at you.
Yeah.
So it's that thing about sometimes you have to be the bigger person,
Mhm.
right? And actually initiate contact, as you said, take the first step,
Mhm.
because the healing process sometimes requires you to take the step forward. And if you just sit there and you're waiting for the other person to take that step, it may not ever happen.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is, by you taking the first step, A, it could possibly repair or mend the relationship. And even if it doesn't, it allows you to be able to put it down, right? Because
Yeah.
you've stepped forward and you've put it out there, and you can at least at the end of the day go, you know what, I did my part
Right.
to try to move this forward, and now I'm okay with wherever it goes from this point forward. But yeah, very interesting that you brought that up, especially dealing with our kids and how we
Yeah.
may have raised them to be
Yeah.
more than we thought they would be. This
But you know what I think some of us, well, I can only speak for myself, but I think when you didn't have a voice growing up, like you were
Mhm,
not allowed to do that, right? That
mhm,
it's hard to break out of that as an adult. Like you tend to be like, as an adult, you're not going to be the first one to speak up and say something. And it's
mhm,
really that being intentional, like we talked about last week, being intentional in who you are. So if something happens that your natural way is to just not say anything, right? Because you don't want to hurt
mhm,
somebody's feelings, you don't want to step out of line or whatever. You have to push yourself in order to say what's right or stand up for yourself.
mhm.
And I know sometimes my stand up for yourself goes a little bit too aggressive rather than being assertive. But you got to stand up for yourself because it's going to eat away at you. You're going to still feel some kind of way about it even though you don't speak about it. It's still there.
Still
So,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I think I should talk about the possible outcomes when you attempt to
Okay.
reconnect, just so you're aware what might happen. Hold on a minute. I didn't write it all down. I left it on my phone because it was quite big. Okay. So, the possible outcomes, there are four. So you're trying to make this deep, transformative reconciliation. So this is where your past hurts are healed and the intimacy is restored.
Mhm,
So, sorry. So that could happen, maybe, um, if you're lucky. It could happen. It could
it
happen
could happen. No, absolutely. Yeah, you could rebuild and restore.
if
Absolutely.
both sides and both sides could actually if both sides vent about it and you're both
Mhm,
like, okay, I see your point, okay, you got both understand, right?
mhm,
Then you could have that, right?
mhm,
um One person changes their perspective and expectation of the relationship, even if the other doesn't, it allows the relationship to heal.
mhm,
Now I
mhm,
can remember recently doing that, and the other person made excuses, but when they made excuses, I kind of felt like they felt bad about it,
mm,
but they made these excuses and put the blame on someone else, right? But I still feel like they were hearing me. So,
mhm.
and we're fine because of that. I mean, it's interesting how that works. Um, because I'm just a forgiving person anyway, but I gotta say my piece to get there, right? I'm
Right. You have to
I'm still gonna be
say your
holding
piece.
on to it.
Right.
This, you know.
Mhm,
Um, So, both persons agree to disagree and establish ground rules. That allows them to continue to be cordial. And if limited, it might be a limited relationship because of that, but at least they're cordial and they can be around
mhm,
each other and all
mhm,
that.
mhm.
The last one, there is no way to have a relationship with the person. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Oh, my back. Oh, fudge. Oh, shit.
Back spasms.
Yes.
This is this is
Medicine.
live, folks, so sorry.
I got medicine for that. I'll
That's
just
all
take
right.
it when I get off because I used to have them in my neck, but it's in my back now. Okay. There's no way to have a relationship with that other person. The only way to achieve peace is to come to terms with the situation and accept it. So that
Hmm.
there are those relationships. So those are the four expected outcomes for attempting to reconnect.
Reconnect, yeah, and that
Mhm.
and it's very important. And I think I said earlier about trying to having to be the bigger person, meaning take the first
Mm,
step, is an important piece of it. But I also think that there is a sign or sense, whatever term you want to use, of maturity
yeah,
that's also required.
yeah,
Just personal growth and maturity to
yeah,
um, stand up and own it.
yeah,
Especially if you were in some ways at fault.
yeah.
And as you said earlier about saying I'm sorry
Right.
and being truthful and really truly meaning that you're
Heartfelt.
sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah, heartfelt from that position. Um, because the whole point of it is obviously this person, family member, friend, whoever it is, at one point in life mattered to you
Right.
and mattered enough, because they were, you know, a closeness that was there. So hopefully there's a way you can rebuild or rekindle that and get that back.
Yeah.
Because it's like a void in your life. You've lost it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so trying to figure out how you can get that back, I think, is an
Right.
important thing to also focus on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there might be people that deny to themselves what's really happened, and
Mhm,
they might be truly sorry because never really want to hurt someone or that person, but at the same time they haven't accepted it all, like I was saying earlier. They haven't accepted truly what they've done,
mhm,
full impact. And when they
mhm,
understand the full impact, then they're really sorry. I mean, so it was heartfelt to begin with because
mhm,
they are sorry,
mhm.
but they don't understand the full
They don't
impact.
understand it. Yeah.
And then they'll
Yep.
come back.
That's so true, and it also goes to what we always say: when you are communicating these things or
Mhm.
trying to understand the other person, you really have to focus on feeling,
Yeah.
because in your mind you're trying to process through it. Well, I don't understand what the big deal is,
Right. Right.
but
Why can't they be like me?
right. Um, but trying to understand how that person feel or felt at that time
Yeah.
is gonna be the key to it, because that's where the impact comes in, right?
Yeah.
Is how
Yeah.
that person's feeling, and,
Yeah. The
if you hurt
empathy.
their feelings or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
because for you, it might be nothing. You can
Yeah. Yeah.
water off a duck's back, didn't think twice
Yeah.
about it,
Mhm.
something you said.
Yeah.
But the other person that, for whatever sensitivities they may have had to it or things that
Mhm.
maybe happened in their life, and a lot of us, we don't know. I mean, there are
Yeah.
things that maybe happened in our childhood or as we grew
Yeah.
up, or different things that have us more sensitized than
Yeah.
the next person's going to be. So
Mhm.
where you can't relate to it doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact on the other person. So
Right.
that's where you have to open yourself up to be responsible and try to understand the feelings that may be associated with what may be causing the problem.
Yeah. Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are lots of layers to it, but again,
There
being
are.
the bigger person, being open, being, as you say, kind of mature and being responsible
Mhm.
for it all, I think are going to be the key components
Right.
to all of that.
And I think you had a good point about that person meant something to you at some point
Hmm.
because that part of your life or that person in your life, they, like you said, they were significant, and not having them in your life, you might think when you're angry or you don't want to be bothered because of what they did, they're insignificant.
Hmm.
But I'm telling you, when you make that reconnection, it's like, oh, I really miss this person.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's like a sister, and we were like that. And
Hmm.
so we reconnected, and I miss her, and I want to have her in my life. It's just
Hmm.
I need to be able to speak up more often myself and just, hey, this is what isn't right, or isn't I didn't this is how I felt about what happened, you
Yep.
know, because
Yep.
that to have somebody in your life for so many years and then just think, oh, you're gonna move
Yeah.
on from it. You're
Yeah.
not going to. You're gonna miss
Yeah.
them.
there's a hole, as I said, there's a void that's literally there, and you try to fill it with other things
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
which can be detrimental to you, you don't even realize it. So,
Mhm.
and again, the piece is try to make peace with it, even if you have to take the first step. And
Yeah,
if you don't get back to where you used to be, that's okay.
yeah,
But that again gives you a chance to kind of heal and at least put it down, so
yeah,
it's not a burden to you anymore.
yeah.
Right?
So for the family get-togethers,
Yes.
somebody step up.
Yeah.
Step up. You still have time for Thanksgiving, and
Hmm.
Christmas is around the corner. If you don't
Hmm.
do holidays, don't make it Christmas or Thanksgiving. Just make a get together.
Hmm.
Don't worry about what it's called. Somebody step up and say, "We're getting together. Come on, come
Exactly.
over."
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's a perfect transition to what I wanted to talk about next is
Mhm.
the stresses of the holidays, because obviously yes we do want to get together and we want to, as we said, rebuild the relationships and reconnect with our family and friends throughout this season, and that's important. But then in that, when you start thinking about it, there's a stress that comes with it. It's like, oh God, so I gotta get a turkey and I gotta go here. I gotta get gifts
Doesn't
for
even
so
have
and
to be
so.
turkey, it could be a chicken.
It's like, ah, all right. So you kind of panic in that
Yeah,
moment of everything that's going on. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit right now is how do you manage your way through that stress so that it's not overwhelming, and then that you also can actually take the time to enjoy it, right? Because
right,
sometimes there's so much of it going on that it's not fun, which is the
right.
whole point of
Yeah,
getting together in the first place is
yeah.
to enjoy the people and the festivities that are happening, in those moments.
The togetherness.
The together
Yeah,
it is all about the togetherness.
yeah,
So, a couple of tips here, and some of the things that I want to talk about, obviously, is keeping it simple. And actually, you know what? I'll pull up a slide because I
I was
want to walk.
wondering if you're
I'll
gonna
just
do
walk
that.
through it. Yeah, I have a slide. I'll go ahead and share it.
It's the laugh. Don't make me laugh.
I'll try not to make you laugh.
Oh, okay.
All right. So enjoy the simpler things. So keeping it simple. Don't try to do too much.
Yeah,
Right. Um, because what happens is we get caught in this cycle of feeling like we have to do a thousand things, right?
right,
Versus a few, because the important piece is getting the people together.
right,
You don't have to have 36 different activities
right.
and a 42 course meal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
For people to reconnect and be together. Because
yeah,
it is the time together that's the important thing. It's not all
yeah,
of the things that you're doing with the time together,
yeah.
right?
Let me
So,
tell you something. Maria and I were doing Thanksgiving. We always do our little holidays together because we're over here. Friends are my family here.
mhm,
And so this girl is a planner. She
mhm,
always has things she loves to do that. Plan and cook.
mhm,
She got everything. She already got all the food and everything. Me, I was in Mexico doing whatever, whatever. I'm not that kind of planner. She
mhm,
already bought everything before we ran out because we run out of things here, right? So she
mhm,
got everything. She's making Thanksgiving dinner. We're even this year we're having it at her house. Last time we had it here because I was making a chicken because that's my thing. I still
okay,
when I go to friends' houses, I don't bother with the whole meal. I bother with the things that I want to have. My cornbread dressing, my I'll make a chicken instead of a turkey. Why make a turkey? It's just me, right? And when
right.
me and my daughter, it was still a chicken because we don't need a turkey.
Don't need
I,
a turkey. It's too much.
I'm
Yeah.
probably making some collard greens because I saw them in the commissary. I picked them up, but I wasn't going to. I'm not going to make macaroni and cheese. I'm not because I'm going to have that at her house. She makes excellent macaroni and cheese, but
Mhm,
I'll bring some home. But I'm just making the things that I want. So when I come back, I don't have to bring a big old plate home. I got some things I like the way I like to have them at my
mhm,
house, and I'm going to her house. She's doing all that. She loves to do that. Wonderful. No argument. We're good friends. We're good. That's so simple, right?
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. But I could have been difficult, been like, well, I want to make the cornbread dressing. I don't know what kind you're making. We do cornbread. I don't know what you're doing. So,
Right, right, right.
and had this tit for tat, no. And I remember going to parties with friends and they'd be like, who's making this? Who's making that? And one friend would tell me all the time, she didn't know whether I could cook or not, would tell me all the time, just bring ice. Okay. Every time, just bring ice.
It's like ice, right?
because she wanted to, it was like that. She wanted to do everything and wanted to be get accolades for doing everything. Okay,
Everything.
fine.
Okay, right, right.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
bring ice. So anyway, I'm just telling this
I'll cook
story.
ice again also,
I'm saying just keep it simple. If somebody
right?
wants to do it all and they can cook, like Maria can cook, let them do it. Make you a little something for when you get home. Okay,
Yep.
I'm done. That was my
No,
statement.
no, you're absolutely right. So, I'm glad you brought that up in that
Yeah,
way, and, um, there's so many layers to it that
yeah,
you kinda have to figure out for your group of friends, your
right.
family circle,
Simple.
everyone's gonna be different. So it might require you to kind of transition out of one mode to the next mode,
Right.
based on whether it's getting together for a holiday party at work, what that circle of friends is like versus some of your truer friends away from work with a little holiday party versus the actual family, right?
Right.
So you might have to transition from, as you said, the person who just brings ice to one but cooks everything at the other,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So and being okay with that. So
Yeah.
figuring out what that means.
I
But
say
again,
holiday parties at work, cater.
cater.
Don't cook,
There you go.
cater.
There's an idea too.
No potluck.
Um, Also moderation, and we talked about moderation
Yeah.
just the last episode. We are talking about that, so
Yeah.
eating, drinking, and spending,
Mhm.
right?
Spending.
Because spending, right? That's the other thing that brings stress for this
Yes.
time of year, right? So
Yes.
overeating, over drinking, and overspending
Mhm.
can be challenging for you. So
Yeah.
figuring out what that means for you and your individual situation, and you know, um, being comfortable with that is another important piece of it that we
Mhm.
want to look at. So again, as part of keeping things simple, um, togetherness in general, because that's what we're talking about today is
Right.
togetherness, but understanding that there is also a balance to that. Too much togetherness
Yeah.
versus not enough togetherness, right?
Yeah, I talk
Um,
about that all the time.
yeah, yeah. And what does that mean for you as an individual, and how much of it do you need, and all of that. Just whatever that turns out to be, I guess our message today is get comfortable with that. If you're that person who says, you know what, I got two holiday events in me for the entire season, that's all of the
That's it.
togetherness I want,
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Don't feel stressed about it, don't feel guilty about it. That's your boundary and that's your limit. That's what you can deal with, and that's fine. If you're the opposite side of that coin and you're like, I got six parties this week, five the next week, and blah blah blah,
And you're gonna make them
and that's
all.
make them off. That's more of what fits who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
just be aware of who you are, what your boundaries
Mhm.
may be, and how you feel comfortable from energy and everything else is going to take to get through that uh, as you do it.
I used to be a, when I was in Illinois, there was always parties, and I used to be a, okay, I gotta go to all these parties. And, but what I would do is I would go and not stay very long. I go put in a good amount of time and then be like, okay, I'm always the first one to leave and come home because
Hmm.
it was a lot of energy, and I was good with energy. I want to go home and be back by myself. And it's gotten worse since the pandemic because I spend a
Hmm.
lot of time by myself. But
Hmm.
that way I was being respectful, going to the parties and being with the people I love and then still coming back home to my space. I give them their time and then come back
Hmm.
because I felt like, but that worked for me. But now I don't know. If I had all those parties, I probably wouldn't. I've changed. I probably wouldn't do them all. I'd have to pick a couple.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
Um, and it's interesting that you bring that up too, because as you move through the whole holiday season and
Hmm.
all of the stresses, set some priorities and make a schedule.
Yeah,
Be, as we said, more intentional about the whole
intentional.
process, right?
Hmm.
So, who is going to have a holiday party and where and when, and is
Hmm.
there another event that you want to go to, or
Hmm.
we're just finally getting back to a stage here of them having some stage plays, and maybe there's a holiday play you want to go see that's going to be happening. Get
Hmm.
all that stuff, kind of lined out on, where your priorities are, and then get a calendar together because that's going to help eliminate some of that stress because now you've got a plan. You're not just kind of winging it as you go your way through it. So
Right.
that's also important. But when you are in those moments of you're there with the group. This is what the slide is talking about here. So enjoy the simple things, keeping it simple. Unplug from the electronics, and we've gone back and forth with that many times on a lot of our other episodes, and that's just simply about being engaged, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
take
Enjoying that time.
this. The focus is togetherness, focusing on togetherness, and if everybody is on their own phones typing away, you know, you might as well have not gotten together because
Right,
you're not connecting, reconnecting,
right.
uh, rebuilding those bridges between the people that are there. Tip number three says respect others. And again, that's just what we were just talking about. Your friend who wanted the credit for cooking
Right,
everything. She
right.
wanted those accolades, right?
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. So respect that.
Right, right,
That's who she
right.
is and who she was,
It
right?
was at her house, and her food was good too, though. Let me say that.
Yeah,
She was a good cook.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
I mean, anytime I went to her house and ate, it was just wonderful. So,
yeah,
I mean, couldn't complain about that.
yeah. Lend a helping hand. So, and that can come across in many different ways. It could
Yeah,
be, whoever's organizing, they're going to have it at their house. Offer to be a co-host,
right.
offer to do what you can. Maybe you want to do the decorations. I mean, whatever it is that you can jump in and lend a helping hand.
Do the
Then it
dishes.
also jumps to the community side too,
Yeah.
and getting involved in
Mhm.
volunteering or working, doing something for a charity
Yeah,
or food drives, whatever else it might be. I think makes a big difference.
right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And then the last tip that I have on my slide, and again, this is all about the part where togetherness is actually happening and getting through it. Uh, Cultivates moments of mindfulness, and what they're referring to here is personal mindfulness. This is the self care piece of it. Understanding that to manage your stress, you're going to still need to carve out time for you, whether
Mhm.
that's to meditate or exercise or whatever it is that kind of rejuvenates you as an individual. Uh,
Mhm.
don't get so caught up in running here, running there,
Gosh.
spending your life at Costco and all these other things, and not take some time in there. And
Yeah.
again, that's where the scheduling and the planning comes in, is that you also need to care for self as you work your way through that entire process.
Mhm. I know people whose holiday seasons are like that. Go, go, go. Well, not now maybe, but back in the day, they were just go, 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 and they had to do everything. And oh, that's never been my way. I've tried to always make it simple, but to go like that and go every year like that
Hmm.
at the holiday season, party this, party that, got to get this for that, get and constantly going. I bet they're different now after the pandemic and sitting down and having to be still.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
That's always going to be the challenge with for just life in general, right?
Mhm.
There's so much that can draw you into in different directions.
Yeah,
And we just did a couple episodes ago talking about life with intent,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
one of the big pieces of that was controlling and maintaining
yeah,
balance, right?
yeah, the
And
balance.
how, and so as you work your way through the holiday season,
Mhm.
with all its togetherness and the seasonal parties, and as I said, from a pandemic standpoint, the world is opening back up. So there
Right,
might be more of those things happening over the next 6 weeks than we have seen in the last year, right? Um, and then how what's your anxiety level around that? Because there are still some people who are
yeah,
very
there's
uncomfortable getting into groups
yeah,
with based on what's happened with the
yeah,
pandemic, right? But also then feeling like I need to go or I need to,
mhm,
go attend this thing. So that brings another level of stress that you
right.
also have to deal with, right?
I think being intentional, like you said earlier, being intentional about it. What are the, what are all of the effects of going? What is gonna be happening? Who's there? How many people are you really gonna go? And
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
time management over that. And remember the peace you got by not being able to do all these things, right? And being intentional on what you actually go to. be intentional to have peace
Mhm.
so you can have that relief.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't go. Why do you have to go? Yeah. What are your goals?
Right.
Does that fit into your goals? Be intentional, and then,
Yeah.
ooh,
So
ooh.
many different things to think about as you work your way through it. So, final thoughts. We'll wrap up so you can go and take care of that back.
My final thoughts are, you may be looking at this is important. You may be looking at the reconnection and rebuilding, refocus, and regenerate. You may be looking at that and then thinking, maybe you don't want to do it. But I encourage you, if you're ready, to go ahead and do it, because on the other side of it is a whole different world.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
reconnecting with that person that, they, like you said, they were obviously important to you. And it's just a good feeling to be back connected with someone that was important to you. And they still are. You
Mhm.
just have whatever's going on inside from whatever happened. And yeah, I would recommend the reconnection.
1,000%. A
Wait,
1,000%.
after you evaluate whether it was toxic or it was a situational incident. And if it's just
Mhm.
a situational incident, that reconnection.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Agreed. No, no, that's perfect. So my final thoughts are this. You know, with VOV Network and why Amin and I even, began this journey in the very beginning was about relationships and connections, right? Helping people be better, do better, individually, groups, family, friends, significant other, all of it, right? And obviously, these last 2 years have probably been some of the most challenging years that a lot of us have faced,
Yeah.
in our lifetimes, right? For various reasons, whether it's dealing with the pandemic or how that's changed your work or your home life, and just many different things have shifted, um, out of your control, and that's always the most challenging piece of it, right? It's just it's spinning in a way that and you don't really have control over it. It seems that we're finally, coming out of that and getting back to whatever our new normal is going to look like. So my final thoughts are now is the time to start to take some control back and reshape what your new normal is going to look like for you with regard to your relationships, your family, your friends, how you're going to move forward with life for 2022. So we talk about rebuild those connections that maybe have gotten lost or had some challenge over the last few years, or even if it's something years further back, but there's a void that's there that needs to be filled in some way. Get refocused you as an individual. What is important to you in life? Because that's probably changed, or how you see things now has probably shifted. And then now you say, okay, and now I have this new focus. How do I go about applying that as I move forward into 2022, um, and making that plan and going down that road for next year. And then the rejuvenate piece is twofold. It's you individually, but it's also all of what matters to you. Really take the time, the energy, the focus to rejuvenate your life. It's almost like a reboot. It's like, let's and what that may look like for you as an individual. Maybe you haven't given it some thought. Um, but I think throughout these next 6 weeks, as we go out and then wrap up this year with the holiday season and all that's going to go on, um, great time to really, really, really get a grasp on what that means to you as an individual, those around you, have those conversations, make a plan, and then take it and run with it as we go into 2022. So those are my final thoughts, and that's really what we wanted to share, and where this topic kind of came up from for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have. Unless Mina, you have any
Except
last comment to?
for follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And please subscribe on YouTube as we build our community there.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you got, hopefully you found value in this video. And again, the VOV network, it's not about us on this side of the fence. it's all about everybody over there.
Yeah,
So we're here to give
good.
back. We're here to help and share your thoughts, share your comments. And then if you have any other specific topics you'd like to hear us talk about, please leave that in the comments also. We would love to hear that from you.
I like your hat.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And you can order one just like this on our
I
website.
can,
So
I am. I'm gonna get another shirt. Not a shirt.
villageofvoices.com. And then when you're there, just go to the village shop and you can get hats, t-shirts, my cool little coffee mug
I
here, which
like
is
that.
kind of nice as well.
Gosh, you
So
didn't even give me one.
yeah. Well, do I know you? I'm just kidding.
Really? Oh,
Really, right?
yeah.
So, folks, until next time, everyone be safe. If we will not be doing a live on Thanksgiving weekend, we will have a unscripted come in this week, and but we won't be live again until the week after Thanksgiving. So, take care, be safe, and again, get out there, be intentional, live a life of purpose, and find what find what it is that makes you tick throughout this holiday season, and make it
Go
happen.
for it.
Go for it. That's all we can do.
All
So
right.
until then, much aloha, and
Take care.
we'll see you soon.
Aloha.